It's autumn. The air is cooler, the days are shorter, and here in the Northeast, the leaves are changing color. It's the beginning of the academic year, and with that, I always like to read campus novels, or as it's been called lately, the dark academia genre. Many roundups of dark academia novels contain titles that I think are already pretty well known, including The Secret History and Ninth House, which I've talked about in some of my other videos. So in this video, I wanted to spotlight 5 dark academia novels that you might not have heard of. Let's get into it. This novel follows the misadventures of an immigrant professor of Russian at an American university. Untenured and, in his opinion, underappreciated, Timofey Pnin struggles with English idioms, finding housing, department drama, and conflict with his ex-wife. Many episodes in this novel poke fun humorously at professors and academic life. But the narrator also has sympathy for the hapless professor and the personal tragedies he has experienced, which is all the more moving because of its juxtaposition with the otherwise humorous scenes in this novel. While it's not as widely read now, when this novel was published in 1957, it was the book that made Vladimir Nabokov a well-known writer in the United States. Set at an exclusive boys' boarding school in the 1960s, this novel explores the difficulties of trying to fit in as a scholarship student. Our narrator hopes to become a writer. His ambitions are only encouraged by the school's practice of inviting famous authors to visit. For each visit, the school holds a writing contest to choose one student for a private visit with the author, which, of course, creates a lot of conflict and drama. When our narrator loses the writing competition one too many times, he resorts to an act of desperation. One of my favorite parts of this novel is the humorous portraits of real-life writers, including Robert Frost, Ayn Rand, and Ernest Hemingway. It's so well written, and it's a joy to read. This is a wonderful new addition to the campus novel genre, and it was published quite recently, in July 2024. The protagonist, Catalina, is an undocumented student who was brought by her family from Ecuador to the United States when she was just a young child. She wins a spot at Harvard, where she occupies an uncomfortable space where she's seemingly within reach of so many amazing opportunities, but due to her undocumented status, she can't always take advantage of them. For instance, after a prestigious publishing internship, her supervisor offers her a job which she is unable to accept. This moment is so painful to read about because we've seen throughout the novel how much she really wants this type of opportunity. She approaches her situation with dark humor that belies the enormous amount of stress she's under. At the same time, her difficult external circumstances do not dampen her desire to do something great, something epic. I loved this quote about her wide-ranging ambition, which is both funny and poignant. I felt like a young Joseph Kennedy, the grandson of Irish immigrants who wanted it all, but I wanted to stay a bootlegger, and also become president, and attorney general, and be Marilyn Monroe, too. One of my favorite parts of this novel is the narrator's relation of her own highly specific and idiosyncratic fantasies. One of her recurring fantasies is that Henry Kissinger is being punished by being enclosed in a shipping container on the side of the highway, and he's forced to run on a treadmill to generate energy, which powers Catalina's various quests around campus. It's so strange and hilarious, and I love it. And I had to share one more quote from this book, although it was hard to choose just a few because there's so many good ones. You weren't necessarily a megalomaniac if you went to Harvard, but it helped if you were. This one's a little different because, unlike most campus novels, which tend to be set at liberal arts institutions, this one is set at an agricultural school. But don't let the unusual setting deter you. This is one of the funniest books I have ever read. When I was reading it, I laughed out loud so often that my family was often like, "What's going on over there? Are you okay?" Moo is a kaleidoscopic novel that follows several different plots and characters. We follow a communist professor, a professor who's corrupted by his ties to big industry, a paranoid farmer, various plotting administrators, and even an experimental pig. Their lives and ambitions intersect for better and sometimes for worse. We'll wrap up with a good old murder mystery, which is one of my favorite subgenres in this dark academia theme. After the sudden death of her husband, Meg takes a teaching job at a boarding school in upstate New York and moves there with her teenage daughter. She hopes it's going to be a fresh new start for both of them. But unfortunately, at the school's opening bonfire, a student dies under suspicious circumstances. As the local sheriff starts to investigate, Meg is pulled into a web of secrets dating back to the school's founding by 2 unconventional women artists. artists. In addition to the suspense of the murder mystery, I loved how this novel incorporates folklore-inspired stories as well as descriptions of the art that is done by the teachers and the students at the boarding school. So those are 5 dark academia novels that I really enjoyed. If you have any others to recommend, please do leave them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.